All right, so I was asked to kind of show off what I do for my Blender lighting, so here we go. I delete everything immediately and then throw in a plane, make it big with the S button for scale. Usually if you drop in one cube, you can tell how big something is. A cube is 1 meter per like section. If you cut it like this, each of those is a meter by a meter by a meter. So if I just hit G, Z1, it'll move it up to exactly where the plane was because the plane will be right there. So with that, I generally tell human size. One being like, 2 meters, a human's roughly 5.5 feet tall. So this being exactly 6 feet is good enough, in my opinion, for a human size. Because we know how big a human is, I can do something like that in my head, kind of. I'll move the human there. And then if I cut this once, grab this, move it up, we have the makings of an infinity plane. Now, instead of doing a line like Marty does, I generally don't. Like you can kind of see here, it's just a plane. If you hit Control B, you will bevel this. And then if you scroll up on the mouse wheel, you can cut the bevel into multiple pieces. I usually do something rough like this. Like I don't set a number. I just do that. Looks good enough. You right click, shade smooth, and that's pretty much done. If you wanted to, you could grab all the edges, hit Shift E, drag it a lot, and you can look at the edge crease, make sure the factor is 1. And then if you really wanted to, you could do Blender's version of Turbo Smooth, which is just subdivision surface. Give it one of those just in case. I'll turn off Shade Smooth just so you can kind of see that affecting it, and then it'll be 2 in the render, so I'll put it to 2 in the viewport. So that's what it'll look like, and then you can shade it smooth as well, which is the smoothing groups if you're familiar with Max. I can move this a little bit to make it longer. I can scale these on the X to make them longer too. Drag this up if I had to. It doesn't really matter what you do. It's not perfect right now, actually. Like, I've made some really good ones just like goofily. Let me leave one of those. Dissolve, and I'll do a few more. Let's see. If I do it more like this, and then I'm going to look at it from orthographic view, drag it this way, and then, oops, should probably grab all of them and drag them. Ooh, X-ray mode. There we go. Drag it that way. There we go. We have a plane, and it's good enough. You can see it in this mode. If you go to like material, you can't see it at all. The creases, kind of. So usually perfect. Like if you looked at my hammer, the creases are very visible, I believe, in the view I was using before, the solid view. If I grab this, go to solid, oh, apparently they're not super visible, but you still kind of see them there. You just don't end up seeing them in renders. Like once you get camera level and everything, you're good. But yeah, that's that for Infinity Plane. I usually hit Shift A to add stuff into the scene. I don't go up to add. It's a very small button and it's at the top. I hate not using hotkeys. So Shift A to add things. Go all the way down to light. And then I never use point, sun, or spotlights. I always go with area lights. I'm sure you'd love it if I told you why, but I don't know. I just like area lights. Point lights will do pretty much the same thing. Sunlights work like a sun, so that's kind of a pain in the butt. You don't want everything to be lit by it. And then a spotlight, just like because it's got a focal point, it kind of becomes a pain in the butt. It doesn't look very realistic. If I were to go here, go to the light settings, no matter what you have selected, that you want the light settings when you're messing with lights. If I go over here, the light setting disappears and it's replaced by the I don't actually know what this setting menu is called. What is this? Object data property. Yeah, that's why I didn't know what it's called. But yeah, grab the lights, go to the light setting, and then here is where you'll affect its brightness. And that's why I don't use point lights, because they're just kind of dumb. Not points. Those were, what were they called? I know it's not a point. Spot, there we go. Area lights are better. So area and then R to rotate it based on your view, or you can RX to rotate it perfectly on the X, RY to rotate it on the Y, RZ to rotate it on the Z, but that's kind of useless right now. But yeah, I generally just goof with these. I don't really rotate on a specific axis. I'll just put my camera wherever I want, rotate it. Good enough. That's an angle. Lights need to be at angles. Don't make lights head on. Those are gross. So just use that angle. Bump this up till it looks pretty. And remember, when your camera's facing your object, it doesn't matter how bright this is, because we're looking at this from here. If you Shift A again, you can add in a camera. Control Alt 0 on the numpad will put it where your view is. So like wherever I move my view to, if I hit Control Alt 0, it'll move the camera to my view. Put it here-ish, do that. G and then hitting Z twice will let you zoom in the camera. Basically, we're just moving it on its Z axis, which is towards the camera, which zooms it in, quote unquote. I grab this guy, I Shift D to duplicate it, move it around. Remember, I am in, if I hold down the Z button, I am in a rendered view. I could also be in material, but I won't see any lighting. Solid won't show any lighting, and wireframes certainly won't. So go up to rendered. Now, none of my light settings, like keep on shadows or anything like that'll stay, but the brightness power will. But you'll have to go up to render and go up to because that is basically this is the difference between Scanline and Arnold in Max. So that's why I went up to cycles instead. I changed it to GPU because that's going to be a hell of a lot faster with a 2080 Ti compared to whatever my processor is, 99. But yeah, it's faster for lights. So whatever. Got two things. We got two shadow right now. Remember, just grab your light. I'll go to solid view, so I stopped doing that. Yeah, I'll stay in cycles. Go to your camera setting, or sorry, light setting. Go to your light. And why do people keep messaging me? Go to your light, and you can turn off the shadows. So just like Max, you can turn off the shadows. And bam, we got 2-point lighting right there. I can Shift D again. And instead of changing the brightness of my lights, often I'll just move them farther away because it's easier in Blender. Well, it's easier for me in 3D, I suppose. It's not really like harder or easier in Blender, but it's easier for me to just move them away. If you want to do it more professionally, you can bring it closer and just bop down its power. Bring that bad boy all the way down. Bam. Now he's giving up no light. Pretty much everything you need for the light is here. You can change what kind of light it is based on just this setting menu if you wanted. You can change its color, obviously. So if I wanted to give this like a orange hue into the scene, I could do something like that. We'll give this guy like a light blue, but just a little bit. Yeah, something like that. Gives us kind of like Marty's dirty scene. I always go into solid view. Ooh, I almost saved it. I don't want to save this. I went into solid view because you don't want to be in render view while you're about to render. Otherwise, you're rendering two scenes and it's just going to take extra time. You can go into your render settings. You can bump up your samples. This is what Marty talks about when it comes to how to get rid of noise. It's always your sampling. You can go into the adaptive sampling and, oh no, I have a newer version of Blender. It's different. Yeah, I just bump up the big number because it'll bump up all samples instead of specific ones. Like in Max, you have the diffuse, the whatever all those settings are that you can bump up samples for. In Blender, you just bump up a big one and it'll bump them all up. There's a way to do specific ones. You can change what the image will be, 1920 1080. I'm gonna leave it there. And then in the third option, I always go down to denoise. Oops. Where denoise? Is it not going to work? Do I have to go up here, go to denoising? Yep, I have to turn it off. Optics. If you have a GTX graphics card, you can generally go up to Edit, Preferences, go to System, and you can change what you're using. If you have a graphics card that can handle it, Optics is the fastest one. If you don't, check CUDA. CUDA is the second fastest, and then none being obviously the worst. This one's okay, depending. I don't have something that works with it, but Optics is the best. So I go with Optics, I change render and viewport to Optics, and now I can go down here to denoising. Make sure, yeah, it is working, it's on, and I can just hit F12 and render. And it'll take a little bit, but that's everything that I do. So yeah, if you have any other questions or anything, let me know. But that's Blender. It's pretty easy, pretty fast. I went through everything pretty quickly because this is a video. But yeah, fun crap. Like I said, message me if you have any questions.